Here is absolutely everything you need to know about the Yankees for the start of the 2023 season.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Stacey and I'd like to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. With me, as always, is my producer, Steve Granado. Steve, what do we have going on in today's show?
Oh, well, you said it perfectly up top there, Stacey. We have the ultimate guide to the Yankees 2023 season. If you are a new Yankees fan, if you're an old Yankees fan, this will have everything you need to know heading into the season. We're going to take a look at the roster. We're going to look at the lineups. We're going to look at rotation. We're going to look at storylines, injuries, everything that every Yankees fan needs to know. So, Stacey, let's start with a very brief recap of what happened in 2022.
The Yankees are coming off a very good and historic season, but it ended in heartbreak in the ALCS against the Astros. But this season has a good mix of young talent and veteran leaders, and we all should be looking forward to it.
Yes. So the opening day roster, which is anticipated to change, I wouldn't say drastically, but anticipated to change throughout the first week of the season. Let's just go ahead and take a look at it for our audio folks. Come on over to the YouTube side and subscribe while you're here, by the way. Your starting pitchers, Jhony Brito, Gerrit Cole, Nestor Cortez, Domingo Germán, and Clarke Schmidt, with, of course, Gerrit Cole being the ace of the staff, the opening day starter. There are a lot of injuries to the Yankees starting rotation to start the season. We'll detail those out in just a second. The bullpen consists of a mostly right-handed heavy bullpen. Albert Abreu with Jimmy Cordero, Clay Holmes, Michael King, Jonathan Loaizaga, Ron Marinaccio, and the lone left-handed option is Wandy Peralta. The two catchers on the staff is Kyle Higashioka and Jose Trevino. The outfielders and some flex players, your utility players. Oswaldo Cabrera is that utility player. Franchi Cordero, who was just signed a day before opening day. Estevan Florial, Aaron Hicks, and then the regulars, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Your infield consists of third baseman Josh Donaldson, utility rover Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, also another utility player, and DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Rizzo first base, Gleyber Torres, a second shortstop, whatever you need him to be. And then, of course, the young kid, Anthony Volpe, who just made his MLB debut on opening day. But that is the opening day roster. Again, Stacey, with some things to potentially fluctuate here for the first couple of days.
Yes. If you asked any Yankee fan what the starting rotation would be, they would not envision Jhony Brito.
Yes, correct. Jhony Brito was called up from AA to AAA last season. Brito, of course, it depends on when you're watching this, but did pitch in the opening series or will pitch in the opening series, again, depending on when you watch this. But yes, Jhony Brito is likely to be a flex kind of guy that they get call up. And then when some guys get healthy, he gets sent back down. Don't expect Jhony Brito to be a mainstay of the rotation in 2023. No knock on Jhony Brito.
Of course.
Stacey, I wanted to take a look at our projected A starting lineup as well, if you want to go ahead and run that down for the folks.
Right. So in the top spot, DJ LeMahieu. Now, again, he could be in a number of spots. For now, we have him as DH. Aaron Judge, second. Anthony Rizzo, third. Giancarlo Stanton in the cleanup spot. Gleyber Torres, 5. Josh Donaldson, 6. Aaron Hicks, 7. Jose Trevino, 8. And young Anthony Volpe in the 9 spot.
Yes, you mentioned that some of these guys could move around in the lineup. This is our A lineup, if you will. Very close to what we saw on opening day, save Hicks in left. There is a lot of fluctuation here. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on in this episode. But yes, so the defensive alignment for the most part is pretty clear, save a couple of guys like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, some guys like Aaron Hicks, Oswaldo Cabrera, some guys that could shift around defensively. But that order, save Anthony Volpe leading off potentially, is pretty much the A lineup, at least as of opening day.
Yes.
Stacey, your starting rotation, we mentioned that it is a little different right now. Again, we're going to get to those injuries in just a second, but the starting rotation currently reads Gerrit Cole, the 1, Clark Schmidt, the 2, Johnny Brito follows, and then Nestor Cortez and Domingo Germán bring up the back end on 4 and 5. There are a number of injuries to the Yankees starting rotation. There's a number of injuries overall. There's some injuries in the bullpen. There's some injuries defensively. Why don't you go ahead and run those down, Stacey, to give an idea. We'll kind of give you what that injury is and when we're anticipating those guys to return.
Okay, so the first one is Harrison Bader. He has a left oblique strain, and they are hopeful that he's coming back by late April. Tommy Kahnle, right biceps tendonitis. His timeline is to be determined. They're hoping for April. We're not sure yet. Frankie Montas, right shoulder surgery. They're hoping by the All-Star break, which is much better than they were thinking before he had that surgery. They were thinking he could be out the whole season. So that's actually a good timeline there. Carlos Rodon, left elbow strain, hoping for April. He's starting to throw bullpens at the moment, so he might be back sooner than expected. Luis Severino, right lat strain, also hopeful for an April return. And then finally, Lou Trevino, right elbow sprain, and his timeline possibly May.
Somewhere around there. So these are all obviously in flux. We don't know 100% on where these types of things are. The Harrison Bader injury is going to shake up a lot of things when he does come back. We're anticipating a move defensively for the Yankees when Bader does come back. They'll obviously have to make a move because they got to add him to the roster back. But some shakeup things, some things like Estevan Florial may no longer be in the organization. That could also be true by the time you're watching this already before Bader comes back. I mean, we're anticipating this roster to kind of change throughout the first couple of days of the 2023 season, just by given the nature of the Yankees trying to make some moves to that roster currently. But the big ones, I mean, you're waiting for Rodon and Severino to come back. I think that's going to really shore up the rotation a lot, and kind of quote unquote fix things, likely push Brito out and turn that conversation to Schmidt and Germán for the 5 spot once more. That was what we were anticipating at the start of spring training before the injuries kind of came into flux. But your final thoughts on just the roster construction, Stacey, before we get to our last segment.
I mean, any other team would be happy with this roster, you know? I know Yankee fans are kind of upset about all the injuries that have happened, but this is the best time to have it done. And I'm fine with the way the roster is. And, you know, we joke about them having too many outfielders, which they kind of do at the moment, but you know, a bunch of guys can play in a bunch of different positions, which that helps the team out. It may seem superfluous, but it does help the team out when they need someone to cover for Harrison Bader, or, you know, also the starting rotation. You have guys that you can stick in. So I'm liking this roster right now. And as you said, it's going to change. It could probably change within the next few hours after we record this. So we'll see what happens.
It is very anticipated to do that. I think the Yankees have a decent mix of young and veteran. I think they obviously skew veteran, especially on their infield. But you have some young guys that could make a big impact this season. We'll talk about those a little bit later, but namely Anthony Volpe right now at the beginning of the season is at top of mind. He is one of the top prospects in all of baseball and has been making waves throughout. He's a local kid as well. So there's a great story to be had there up the middle with Anthony Volpe. He won the job in spring training, played very well in spring training, was not anticipated really to make the opening day roster, but forced his way onto it by how good he played. Very fast, really good hands defensively, good bat with some good pop. I wouldn't say great pop, but good pop. Off of that bat, right-handed swinger. So Anthony Volpe is a guy to watch out for this year. Obviously, Gerrit Cole's the ace of the staff and was ranked as the number 2 starting pitcher in all of baseball by MLB.com. He is lights out starter. And I think the rest of the Yankees rotation, when they're all there, is very good and one of the top rotations in baseball, if not top 5 rotations in all of baseball. So pitching-wise, starter and just mashability in the lineup, if you will, is very strong. It's a very solid, very talented, and scary Yankees roster in 2023.
Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. It's the fastest-growing ticket app in the country for a reason. You get images of your seat before you buy, and tickets are sent directly to your phone. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And Locked On Yankees is brought to you by FanDuel. There's no better place to get in on the sports betting action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first one doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim our offer. Don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel. In this second segment, we have some issues holding back the Yankees, some things they can do to address them, and other storylines to watch out for in 2023. The first one, the Aaron Hicks, Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa conundrum.
That's what we're dubbing it.
That is what we're calling it. Aaron Hicks had a rough 2022, both defensively and offensively. Donaldson was offensively rough. He had 15 home runs, but other than the 15 home runs, he really didn't look good at the plate, especially in the playoffs. And that's what Yankee fans remember. It's always the performance in the playoffs. That's just how it happens. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was fine. Offensively, he was fine. He hit 4 home runs. No one expected that. He even hit a grand slam. But also another thing magnified in the playoffs, plays that he didn't make in the field. And, you know, coming into the season, Yankee fans wanted all 3 of these guys to be gone. And that just wasn't possible.
Yes. There's contract situations there that just don't bode well for the Yankees moving these types of players. So the only player in this 3-man mix that is the most likely to move, if you will, is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. The reason why Yankees fans have been clamoring to move these guys, aside from your point, Stacey, was that the Yankees have a lot of guys defensively that are well thought of in the minors and that can make an impact in theory coming soon. I guess one of those guys is actually still only in the minors, and that's Oswaldo Peraza, who was called up as the September call-up last year and was really good last season in AAA. Spent all season in AAA and got called up and got very minimal playing time. He did not have a good spring training. He got sent back to Scranton Wilkes-Barre. So that's the one guy that people are clamoring to get back up in the bigs potentially, is having Oswaldo Peraza, another player, Oswaldo Cabrera, not to be confused, and, of course, Anthony Volpe. All these 3 players can play the infield and are infielders, even though the Yankees use Oswaldo Cabrera in the outfield a lot as well. So the future of the Yankees infield looks like Oswaldo Cabrera at third, Oswaldo Peraza at short, and Anthony Volpe potentially at second, or however you want to flip those 3 players. They can all play those positions. I would save Anthony Volpe at third. Wouldn't put him at third.
Right. He doesn't have the arm strength, I don't think.
Yeah. Read my mind, Stacey. But so that's where there's a lot of contention amongst the Yankee fan base, is between those 3 guys and these 3 guys. Those are the 6 players that people feel very strongly about, I guess is probably the way to say it. Now, Josh Donaldson had a much better latter half of the spring. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa feels like the Yankees don't really know what to do with him right now.
No.
They have tried to turn him into a utility player. They have tried to turn him into a center fielder. They have tried to do anything they can to justify him still being on the roster. So that's the main contention storyline heading into the season here. We wanted to kind of point out some other players that could make an impact this year. Greg Weissert was called up in the latter part of last season. He's a right-handed reliever with a good fastball and a really, really good slider. So watch out for him. He did not make the opening day roster. Another one is Matt Crook, a left-handed starter, potential long reliever. who was picked up from the Tampa Bay Rays not too long ago. He's with the Rail Riders as well. So those are the three names I've picked as the young guns, if you will, that aren't on the roster that could make an impact this season. Again, that's Oswaldo Peraza, Greg Weissert, and Matt Crook. Other storylines we wanted to touch on, Stacey, just kind of before we say goodbye today.
How will Oswaldo Cabrera be used? It feels like the Yankees want to use him in basically every position other than catcher. The boy has 6 gloves and he can play a number of positions. And, last year they put him out in left field for the first time ever. And he made an incredible catch at the wall as if he had been playing in left field his entire life. And I think that's what they love about him. And he's going to be used. I think he's going to be used a lot because everywhere they plugged him in, he did well defensively.
Very impressive. And he's a real good clubhouse guy. He's already seems to be a bit of a leader, even at his young age. And he is he's a big personality in the best way possible. Not a big personality like he's annoying, big personality like everybody loves him. So he's a great guy to have around. We mentioned it a little bit there, but just kind of touch on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Gleyber Torres, Josh Donaldson as potential trade pieces. The Yankees, as of opening day, are still lacking in left-handed relievers, are lacking in a closer. So there are some things to kind of figure out still throughout the first month or two of the season. Who's going to close? Is that spot going to be held on to by Clay Holmes? Is Jimmy Cordero going to swoop in and steal it? Will Greg Weissert get called up and steal the show there as well? Will someone like Jonathan Loaisiga slot into there? Will Ron Marinaccio win that spot? It's a pretty much open competition right now at the closer spot. But the one thing the Yankees could potentially do is swing a guy like Gleyber Torres, who has the most trade value and in a spot where the Yankees, quote unquote, don't necessarily need him.
Right.
So that's kind of what you're thinking there. And then there's the back on the conundrum side of things. There's a guy like Estevan Florial, who cannot be sent back to the minors anymore. If they do that, essentially the Yankees will lose him to another team, or if the Yankees want to send him off of the major league roster. So when Harrison Bader comes back, who was dealt to the Yankees at the trade deadline last season and anticipated to be the center fielder every day, the Yankees have a big log jam in the outfield. Stacey, your thoughts on the Florial Hicks and now Franchi Cordero situation in the outfield?
Yeah, it feels like the Cordero move was to make it easier for them to get rid of Florial, which feels bad to say because they can't do anything about Hicks. They owe too much money to him and they can't really get rid of him unless another team wants to take on his contract. And it feels like the easiest move for them to make would be to let Florial go.
There's a good competition pretty much at every spot save first base for playing time.
Yeah,
there really is. Maybe first base, and when Bader comes back, center field. There is it's a good problem to have for the Yankees. They have too many talented players to play too many positions, or not enough positions, I guess is probably the way to say it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
They're in a good spot and they have some depth. I think they're going to lose that depth whenever the writing on the wall comes up for Florial. They're going to lose part of that depth. They lost some of it last year as well. But they have some really talented ball players ready to contribute and are really just begging for a chance at this point.
So that'll do it for our ultimate guide to the Yankee season. Locked On Yankees releases 5 episodes a week, Monday through Friday, so make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and go Yankees!